Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome to Proper Madness, formerly Beautifully Broken. My name is Sabby, and I give a unique perspective on mental health by providing tools, guidance, and knowledge on how we can better understand ourselves, as well as our past and present experiences, and in doing so, we can help heal our mental health. I get to speak with a variety of individuals from around the world as they share their stories from their journey through their mental wellness so that it helps others stand strong and use their voice. Welcome back, everyone, to Proper Madness. Today I have Erika Levy. She's an amazing singer, and I have the honor and pleasure of having her on my podcast today, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Erika, and thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm a singer-songwriter. I've been writing music since I was a kid, but probably like the last 4 years, started really pursuing it and sharing it with the world. And as far as mental health issues go, I definitely have a long list of things that I think I can like trace back having some kind of mental health issues at a very young age. And I think that music really helped with that. Even just like listening to music, writing it came a little bit later. But I feel like it's such a blessing to have and a gift because it's really helped me through some challenging times.
That's good. That's really good to hear. Yeah, I feel like collectively, from what I've heard, is music has helped a lot of people just feel not alone, because they hear someone else's lyrics or songs and they say, oh, like I feel the same way that this person's feeling. Did you have any moments like that? What were the type of singers or music that you listened to growing up?
I definitely listened to as like a young kid, I think like there was like the oldies and then kind of just like pop that you didn't really know what it was about, but that just like got you like dancing with your friends and whatnot. But I think there was a period of time when I got in my adolescence where or my formative years where I connected more with like poetry and singer-songwriter, kind of like folk music. I remember I really loved Jewel. And I think she was like the first album I listened to where I was listening to what she was saying. And there was like some kind of sadness in me that I didn't even, know where it was coming from per se, but like just really connected with that. And I don't know, just like it made me feel really good.
That's really cool. How did you get into music? Like what started your journey?
My mother is an amazing musician. She went to school for music and is a pianist. So at a young age, I was taking piano lessons. And I think I always had some kind of interest in it. I think I did not love taking lessons as a kid, but I'm so glad I did because it's really like one of the most favorite things about myself is that I can play the piano. But I think I was trained classically, and then somewhere along the line, I think after like hearing some of these singer-songwriter songs, I wanted to try that out. And I was already writing in journals and writing little poems, and so it just kind of became its own thing for me.
You said you write poetry. You got into poetry. Do you still do some of that?
Yeah, I think I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, there's still like, I guess journaling more, they're like poems, but and I can like reference them sometimes for songs, like different ideas or sayings that I've written down. So yeah, I'm still writing poetry.
That's really cool. Yeah, I have I think a bunch of friends in my writing community on Instagram that are all poets, and so we all like collectively will pitch in and like look at each other's stuff. And so I too write, and I kind of get into poetry. Like I don't know what I'm doing. Same thing. Like I just think of these things in my head, like whatever I'm feeling at the moment. I just write it down and just post it. I'm like, okay, whatever. It is what it is.
I love
So
that.
I resonate with that 100% because I deal with poets, like actual poets with like, they're doing like all the things that you would do that you were taught maybe to do. And I'm
Right.
like, I don't know. I have no idea what I'm
Right.
doing.
I feel the same way.
You're just like my emotions. I feel things. I write them down, and that's really it.
Well, I guess my first like recollection of dealing with some kind of mental health issue was in high school when I was diagnosed with ADHD, which at the time when I was in high school, it was treated a lot differently than it is now. And I felt very excluded, or just like something was wrong with me. So I was different. And it wasn't, now with lots of therapy, it's explained to me more as just a different way of thinking rather than you're wrong, or this is, it's not the majority way of thinking, I guess. And there's also lots of really cool stuff about having ADHD, especially when you're working creatively. It helps you think outside the box or go to different places that another type of brain wouldn't maybe reach. So I was put on medication for that, and I did not like how I felt on it. And I stopped it kind of like cold turkey, and I fell into a very deep, dark depression. And it was probably that mixed with being in high school, mixed with like hormones and all sorts of stuff going on in that period of time. But it was really frustrating and scary. And I don't think I really figured any of that out until much later in life. I think it kind of ebbed and flowed as I got older.
Yeah, that's a lot. I completely, again, like I get it. I had I still do. I have ADD, not ADHD. And I had the same thing. Like you kind of feel like you're an outsider because you can't think the same way other people do. And the way you learn is different, the way you function is different, and you just feel like everything you do is wrong. And that can be like a really isolating feeling to have, which I'm sure you've dealt with. How did you get through those moments when you were younger?
I got through it with a lot with music. And just like, I don't know, like I really took comfort in like, that sounds really weird, but like being sad obviously doesn't feel good, but like there was something that I liked about it because I was able to like write these songs, or it kind of like spurred like creativity for me. And I mean, to this day, like a lot of my songs are about sad things that have happened. I think that's pretty typical for many singer-songwriters, but it helped me a lot. It was just an outlet, and no one had to really talk back to it. No one had to be present with me. It was just something I always had with me that I could create. So that was really nice.
It's good to hear. I feel like we all have our different outlets, no matter what they are, and that can make us feel less alone, to have something like that. And again, I know with ADHD now, it seems like it's become a little bit more normalized, and people are talking about it more, which is good. And even I find new ways of understanding why I think the way that I think. Like I'll be on TikTok, I don't know if or something, and someone will explain like, "Oh, this is because you have ADHD." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, what? This is the whole." And I'm like, okay, now I feel less alone, but it explains a lot. But how do I deal with it? How do I get through it?
Exactly.
How did you get through your ADHD? Because I mean, medication for a lot of people isn't an option either. I couldn't take it because I felt the same way. So
Yeah, okay, so I didn't really start like getting down to it until like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 years ago when I started up like adult therapy. I went to therapy in high school and it didn't it while they diagnosed me and were medicating me, but for me it was not a good experience. And I think maybe that's could be important for someone to hear because I mean the therapist I was put with just we did not connect. We did not I was like, this is a joke. She would just sit there and stare at me and not
Mm.
prompt question. I was not willing to share. Um, and, sometimes it takes like a couple therapists to figure out one that works with you. And currently, right now, I'm with someone who I've been with for 4 years now, and she's amazing. And she specializes in adult ADHD.
Oh, cool.
So I feel like with her, I've really figured a lot of things out. But like in high school, I just struggled. I did horrible. I have failed so many classes. I had to go to summer school every year. I loved sports. I was on swim team and water polo, and like that kind of was my like silver lining during high school. But towards the end, I just checked out. I was like, I
Mm.
can't do this anymore. I can't. I felt just like a failure. Like all my peers were excelling. I went to a really like I guess prestigious high school. We had like a very intense magnet program that all my
Mhm.
friends were in, and I was in the one like right below, which was still very good, but everyone was just high achievers and I could not keep up, nor was I interested. Um, so moving into college, I I went to um community college and then got accepted to Cal State Long Beach. And I don't know, I was not on medication, I was not in therapy, but I just like wanted to do good. I wanted to pass, and I just really worked hard.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
math has always been the like I cannot math. It's not for me. I just said, no, I'm going to do that. I'm going to spend like extra hours studying. I'm going to like stay after class and ask the professor why this is this way and like bug people to help me
Mm.
because I needed the help. And really, if you ask, like people are willing to help. I mean, I'm sure there's that one rogue teacher that's not going to do that for you, but it worked out for me. And I ended up getting A's and everything. Like it was pretty cool. But yeah. And then now more recently therapy. Yeah.
Mm. What are some of the I haven't been to like ADD therapy at all. So what is that like? Like I, I'm sure it's very different because I have no idea. Do you mind like talking about it a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So we go into there's like, emotional aspects, and then there's more like the neurology. And she will explain to me like why I'm thinking a certain way or why I get paralyzed when certain things are going on in my life that can be very frustrating to me. And then when she breaks it down, it feels a little less chaotic and scary. I can understand what's happening, and she also gives me tools to get out of these like cycles, and then also how to use it to my advantage for like songwriting or painting. That's what I went to school for, was drawing and painting. That's pretty much what we do. And she also has given me the option recently of going back on medication, explaining to me that it's kind of a different game now and there's all these different kinds. You don't have to take it regularly, is what I'm understanding. So like if there is a big project I have to complete or something where I just need the help, I can
Yeah,
kind of drop into that and then let go when I want to, which
that's
sounds,
cool.
yeah, it sounds great. I haven't done
Yeah.
it yet, but I'm definitely interested.
Yeah, I feel like there's such a big stigma with ADHD and medication. I feel like the biggest one is like taking Adderall, and then which now people use recreationally, which is odd. And I don't like.
Mm.
I feel like in college when people used it recreationally and I tried it, I was like, I feel normal. Like I don't feel like I just feel like a normal person.
Yeah.
Like I could probably focus on something for once and like get it done. Um but yeah, that's really good to hear. What are some of the biggest stigmas that you think that you've faced with your ADHD and how you've gotten through that?
I think a big one is um, you're lazy. There's a lot of times where it's like a classic ADD, ADHD thing where your brain is going like a mile per minute. You have like so many thoughts and tasks built up in your head that it kind of like clogs and you
Mm.
become paralyzed. So there's like nothing you can do unless you have these tactics which you have to be actively working on, or medication of course. But it yeah it's very frustrating. I think there's been people in my life who have thought, you're late or you try harder, like what are you doing, like just do it, like.
Mm.
And it's just not the case. So yeah, that being forgetful, like always leaving something, losing something. I remember when I was a kid, oh Lord, I would always leave my homework in the day. I'd leave my flute at band practice. Like I would just not have anything on me ever. Like I could not hold it together. So yeah, kind of like you're a space case or but you learn to see that those quirky things are actually like some of the best parts about you.
Mm. Which is probably why like going on medication, I've in my experience made me feel like I wasn't me and I
Mhm.
couldn't like and my quirky, weird, whatever, just wasn't shining through because I was like a shell of a person. So
Yeah, that is exactly how I felt in high school because I was taking it twice a day, every day.
oh wow.
Yeah, it was too much for me.
Jeez, yeah.
For me.
Especially, yeah, and in high school too, like you're young, you're still like figuring yourself out, and that can be a lot. I have this thing called the floating screwdriver, which is I will go. So my dad used to have the exact same thing. He has ADD. He'd go look for something. Like when he was young, his grandfather, his dad, my grandfather would tell him, "Hey, go find the screwdriver." He'd go look. It wasn't there. And he'd come back, tell my grandfather. My grandfather would go look, and he'd find it in like 2 seconds.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah, I feel like it's very like when you were explaining to me that you were like forgetful and like losing things. I'm like, oh my God, that's my life. Like I still have that. Like my mom will tell me, Sabby, grab this from the fridge. And I'm like, okay, it's not there. She's like, what? I go, well, I was looking for like 20 minutes. And then she goes and finds it for like in like 2 seconds. So
Hmm. That's so
yeah.
funny.
But I was listening to your music on Spotify and I read like the little blurb of your about me before I started listening to some of the music,
Mhm.
which I wish I didn't do. I wish I would listen to your lyrics first and then read it, but I kind of want to know like the deeper meanings behind some of the songs. Minotaur is the one that like I think is amazing. I love the
Oh,
sound of that one.
thank you.
Can I ask what that one's about?
Yeah, of course. Well, as the legend of the Minotaur in Greek mythology, um, I was in an art history class, and we were learning about Picasso, and he used the Minotaur as a symbol in a lot of his paintings.
Mm.
And for him, the deeper symbol was kind of like your subconscious, or like your shadow self, I guess people are referring to that now, just like it's kind of like a darkness
Yeah.
within you. And the legend of the Minotaur, he's forever trapped in a maze, in the labyrinth. And I just started like having this thought in my head and I was going through some stuff at the time. I was very depressed, and I just wanted my mind to think differently, and I wanted to just break free from this like labyrinth that I was thinking about in this art history class. And I was like, well, if the Minotaur is like stuck in a labyrinth in your brain, or like in the human, and that's like the symbol or whatever, but the Minotaur like wants, like eats humans to, that's its like sustenance. So if it's like stuck in a brain, it can just eat its way out and free itself. Which was like so bizarre, but I that was the little like story that I came up with in my head, and then later on it turned into a song, and now here it is on Spotify for all
I
to
mean,
hear.
I love it. I feel like that's very telling of a creative person's brain. Like that's just how you come up with stuff. It just happens. It
Yeah.
happens.
Hmm.
That's really cool. Yeah, and when I was listening to that, like I could feel like the melodic undertone of that song is it's like it's dark but not too dark. I don't know if you planned for that, but I really enjoyed that aspect to it because it gave kind of like a, what's the word I'm looking for? It gave a very mysterious vibe to it, which I love.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
The mystery is there for sure.
Yeah. It's such a cool song. That's actually the song that Lisa sent me when
Oh,
she said, "Hey, like I have a singer for you." I was like, "Oh." And I listened to that song. I was like, "Oh my God, yes. I'm going to reach out to her because it's such a good like."
well, thank you so
But
much.
you're welcome. But there's another song I listened to. Well, I listened to all of them. Podium, and I heard a line in there that just really like popped out to me. It was, "I don't want to feel like me anymore."
Mhm.
Oh God, like my heart sunk.
Mhm.
What was the premise with that song, with the lyrics and
Um, Again, I think, well, I know that I was dealing with a lot of just overwhelming like anxiety.
Mhm.
So, I mean, there's like two different like tracks that I've been on, like the dark depression, like, can't get out of bed, and then the anxiety, which is like a little bit different than that. You're just
Yeah.
constantly in a state of like panic or worry. And it just became quite exhausting to me. And I think that maybe just came from that, like, I don't want to be that anymore.
Mhm.
And I know you're not the first person who's told me about that song. Like, I've sang it live before, and people will come up to me and be like, that is just so sad, like, to reject oneself. Like, it is
Yeah.
though, but that's how I was feeling.
No, it's very relatable because I feel like a lot of us who have suffered with our mental health, we don't want to feel like ourselves anymore because it's too much. And that's sometimes what prompts people to get help or unfortunately do the complete opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, when I heard that line, I was like, God, if I had a penny for every time that I had that thought in my head, from now to like age 30, I'd probably be a millionaire. Like it was like
Yeah.
that's yeah, I your music is just very relatable. Like all the lyrics are like it's feelings that I have felt many times before, and then from talking to other people that they have also felt as well. So it's, which is rare. Like so, I feel like sometimes some singer songwriters are more mysterious and like they allude to things. They don't really like just say it. And you have
The
both. You do
word.
both. So yeah.
Hmm. That's really nice to hear and encouraging. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I'm a painfully honest person. I don't have a filter. So
Yeah.
what happens just happens, and then it is what it is. But I was gonna ask, the times that you did deal with your depression and your anxiety. I mean that coupled with ADHD, I can't imagine what it's like because with having ADHD and trying not to like beat yourself up for being lazy, but really like there's nothing you can do, and then also having depression and also having anxiety. How the heck? did you pull yourself out of those? I mean, that must have been really hard.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a struggle. I honestly think the best thing that I ever did was start therapy. And I also used to be married,
Mm.
and towards the end of my marriage is when I started seeking help and grew as a person. And in doing so, I think, you figure out some stuff about yourself, and sometimes you outgrow a person or a person outgrows you. And I think that was along with some other really not so nice things that happened. Uh, but yeah, therapy, like, just wow, really. I mean, I feel so fortunate to have been able to get the help. I know there's affordable options out there for people, um, which I would strongly advise, like all the like online stuff that people are doing now. There's always like um, coupon codes and stuff, but I think that was really the answer for me. I needed to talk to someone.
Some of the times when we're the most alone in our own heads, it's because we're alone in our own heads and we need to get it out in some way. And our outlets, be it creative or otherwise, can only do so much until it becomes too like unbearably lonely.
Yeah. I mean, I've gone through it all. Like I I really, if this podcast is here to like show people like what you can overcome, like I will bear it to you. I will bear it all right now. I like in my marriage, I was severely depressed. I won't go into like too much detail, but it just was bad. And there were times when I didn't really know that it was bad, but I knew that I didn't feel good. And I was having like such bad anxiety and panic attacks. There was like a time I did not want to leave the house, which is just crazy to me because now I feel a world different, like complete rebirth. Like I have so much joy in my life and I know how to navigate those tricky feelings too. But I attribute a lot of that to therapy. And my divorce was extremely painful. I would consider that like a rock bottom in life. Um, my ex-husband was he left me for another woman, and that's as far as I'll go with that. But it came out of left field, and then instead of anxiety, it was like the deepest depression I think I've ever experienced. I couldn't get out of bed. I could not eat. My therapist wanted me to go to the hospital because it was like that bad. And I am here today. And again, like I just looking back then, like I never thought I was going to get better. I just was like, this is it. This is life now. Like it just seemed I was in this hole that I couldn't get out of. And like I'm here and my life is so amazing because I don't know, I just chose the better path.
What do you think prompted you to choose that better path? Like if you can remember like a specific thing.
Well, I was going to therapy like twice a week at one point, but even that, it was wonderful to talk to someone and I needed it and she
Mhm.
helped me so much. But after a time, it did become kind of just like me crying to her and like almost like a parental relationship. And one day, I think I did actually. Oh, there was a time too where I had cried so much that I would like try to sing and I couldn't sing, and I was just like, oh no, like I everything's taken from me. Like I'll never make music again. And then one day I just felt like moved to sit at the piano and I was able to sing and I wrote my first song since the whole thing. And I don't know, I was just like, whoa, like this is what I want to do. That this is all very painful and this all sucks, but like I want to do something for myself. I had not been doing things for myself. I had been pushing those things away because they seemed irrational or didn't like fit our plan or whatever. Like people tell you all sorts of stuff when you choose something that's maybe more creative or not like the 9 to 5 type of route in life.
Yeah.
And I just said, this makes me happy and I have to fight for the happiness, whether I make it or not. Like I have to try and I have to do it. So that kind of became a focus for me. And it really did lead me through this path of just joy and new experiences. I mean, I had always wanted to live in New York. I had even talked about it with my ex-husband, and he would have never wanted to do that. And then, like, the year after my divorce, I got up and I moved and I just did sublets and made it where I had friends. I didn't have a ton of money, but I made it work. And yeah, here I am.
But like hearing that one pivotal moment is just so important for people to know, because I feel like when we get into that deep dark depression, we stop and we think, like you said, you're like, this is it, like, is it gonna ever get better? But you kind of have to wait for that pivotal moment, otherwise, like, I don't know, I had something similar with mine, but it was a little more extreme. But yeah, I had the exact same thing where I just stopped and I was like, okay, this has gotten really bad. I never want to feel like this ever again.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of the turning point, because I also went to therapy for years and years and years, just on and off, and it never really stuck. Like I don't want to say I never took it seriously, because I did. Nothing really resonated, and it didn't click how important it was, and I didn't realize how depressed I was or what I was really going through. Something to look out for, because it happens,
Yeah. I just want to like tell people it's going to be okay. Like you are going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I am in fact in a new relationship, which is beautiful and is something I never even dreamed of, like just so fulfilling to me in many ways.
Okay.
And like if someone wants to hear that, like that's inspiring, I'm sure.
So the last question I ask everyone is, if anyone resonated with what you've been through or anything you've said that you've talked about, what would be the advice that you'd give them?
The advice I would give them is, I don't know if this has to do with overcoming, mental health stuff, but I want people to go after their dreams. Maybe that sounds really cheesy.
No,
But like like certain things I'm doing, like with music stuff that I'm doing, and I'm nowhere where I want to be, but there was a time where I didn't even think I'd be here doing this, like just putting music out there or going to a recording studio. It all seemed so foreign to me. And I just think follow those dreams and start the baby steps, and it will give you joy and happiness because it's your dream, and that is so important to honor and not stifle.
I really appreciate you coming on. I really, really do. If you want, you can plug where people can find you and find your music and all that. And
yeah, totally cool. You can find me on Spotify, I think Apple Music, Amazon, those streaming platforms. Erika Levy, just ErikaLevy. And I share some fun like music stuff on Instagram. And my handle is Rika Suave. So it's RIKASUAVE.
Thank you so much for listening. And remember, you have to go through the eye of the storm to see the clear horizon ahead. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll see you next week.